What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. Welcome in to another edition of the NFL Weekly, the divisional round edition, and then there were 8 as we try to figure out who will be the Super Bowl champ for the 2021 season. To help me break down this weekend, we will start with the my other 2 co-hosts. We'll start with Coach Brandon Lupian. Coach, you can find Coach, I should say, at Portland 76er. How you doing tonight, Coach?
You know, it's just a blessing to finally be back on with you two gentlemen. Definitely been a scramble with my schedule and then at the club and then now the schedule with the club and the college. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those things I've been looking forward to from weeks ago and just haven't been able to. So I'm very, very fortunate to share the airwaves with you two guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you back there, Coach. And you know, there's no matter what, the seat is always open at this table for you, and we're very, very glad you're here this weekend, or this week, I should say. And also with me, as always, is Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, I am doing well. You know, the Raiders are out of the playoffs, but they got back in, and now we get to do all the speculation. And within 30 days, or within 2 weeks, probably, you'll also hear that my name is in the hat as being the next head coach for the Raiders, along with Harbaugh, along with this guy, along with that guy. And so I've seen general managers named for 4 different teams all on the same day. The guy from Patriots, he's going to interview here and here and here and here, and everybody's got the inside track on these guys. It's just it's kind of like picking the Final Four.
Yeah,
I would love to hear your name.
It's interesting. I mean, even today, the news, or at least I guess the speculation, you know, I read something that if Harbaugh wants the job, the Raiders are ready to just give it to him. And you know, that's another situation, and we'll definitely break down that at a later date. I think the Raiders, I believe, you know, that Eric Bieniemy's and others, I think they deserve everyone to take 2 weeks and wait. I think to go through kind of, let's go the quote unquote less than teams assistance, because you want to get somebody and not have to have 5 teams fighting for one Eric Bieniemy. I mean, I think it's a disservice. I don't know how they change that, if they literally put a moratorium on it until the end of the Super Bowl. I don't know, but I believe that's always worked against Eric Bieniemy. This is going to be what, year number 5, pretty much, that he's going to be a head coaching candidate, and probably half of the coaching vacancies will be filled by the time he can interview. So, but yeah, once again, and I'm also going to throw out the Houston Texans, because I was very, very
right.
You know, the stuff that happened with Houston with Deshaun Watson, the Texans could have said, you know what? He's not suspended. He gives us the best chance to win. We're already paying him. We're going to play him. They didn't do that. And I think all of us knew, okay, this team's going to suck. And then for them to go out and then fire their head coach after 1 year. I mean, as positive, if Bill O'Brien got 5 years, I think David Culley should have at least gotten 3 with a quarterback that wasn't Davis Mills, with all due respect to him. But my soapbox is put away for a moment, and it's time to look at the games coming up this weekend. We'll start with our first Saturday matchup. It's going to be in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 47.5. Looking at the weather, kind of going to be a theme for this, for all the weather at least, is it's clear. It's going to be cold, but it's going to be clear. High 20s, low 30s. For, I'm sure, the people in Tennessee, a little colder than normal, but nothing to affect too much. Raider Jim, I want to start with you. Before you do give us your, you know, rundown on that, I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts on an unfortunate game this past weekend, but a game that, I mean, it seemed like it was a perfect microcosm for the Raiders season, because 3 or 4 times in that game, I counted them out, and bygone it, they got one last chance. With the last play of the game, they had a chance to win that one. But before we get your pick on this weekend, what were your thoughts on this Raiders performance in Cincinnati?
There was a time when, and it goes back, I guess, 20 years now, but I remember when you got the Raiders into the red zone, when you had Rich Gannon under the ball, guess what? You were going to score. You weren't going to get 3 points. They could get 3 points because they had Sebastian Janikowski, but you were going to score. When you only needed 3 yards for a first down, you were going to get the first down because you had Wheatley, you had Crockett, you had Garner. And, take your pick. Which guy do we want to give it to? The Raiders were their own worst enemy on the offensive side of the ball. You cannot, and I mean, you just can't pick up 8, pick up 10, pick up 15, only to see it come back and move back, because when you're 6'6" and you weigh 300 pounds, guess what? They're going to see you move. I hate to tell you, folks, but they're probably going to catch that. Trent Williams on the 49ers, he did that. He did it twice, I think. I was like, this guy's 6'8", 380 pounds. You think they're not going to see you flinch, pal? And they just they penalized themselves right out of the red zone and the end zone. And so I don't want, the bad call. Yeah, that was unfortunate, but you know what? Should have got the ball in the end zone 2 more times easily.
Yeah, the inadvertent whistle was tough because while it was an inadvertent whistle, I don't think anybody, when the whistle came in, I don't think anybody necessarily stopped playing. The ball was already in the air. I mean, yeah, the defenders probably were a little surprised, but it's not like he was holding on to the ball when it was thrown. And for somebody who dealt with the Hockley situation as a Charger fan 10, 12 years ago, it was a mistake. And, it was a bad game for those referees, no doubt about it. But Raiders, Jimmy hit it on the head. It seemed like every big play for the Raiders, you held your breath. And sure enough, there was some yellow on the field. But looking ahead to this week, who you like? Cincinnati at Tennessee.
I think Tennessee is the best team. I think Tennessee is rested. The Bengals played, obviously they played a great game, but that game is not going to hold up against Tennessee. I think they're going to be defended. I think they're going to be stopped. And I think Tennessee is just going to run at will.
Yeah. It's going to be very, very interesting there in Tennessee to see how I feel like a lot of times the 1 seeds kind of get forgotten about on Wild Card Weekend because we see some just fantastic performances and we don't see Tennessee. But I think a lot of people are on the Tennessee boat, and I got to agree. But Coach Lupian, what are your thoughts? Go for it. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and as far as the on the betting side of things, at 3.5, it opened at 3. I'll take a half point. I'll take 3 points, -3 for the Titans. And you said the over under was,
I think it was 47.
Over under is 47.5. Yeah, they'll go over, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Coach Lupian, what are your thoughts? Tennessee 3.5 point favorites against the Bengals.
This is the first time in a number of years that Tennessee is coming in off the bye week, and I've always been weary of that playoff first round bye week for those top seeds, and that's just my human nature, and it's not going to change. But being the spread what it is, only a -3, it's pretty much in favor of a Tennessee team that's been cleared to play Derrick Henry, and that'll be an interesting dynamic, filling him in and getting him some touches if that's the case. But on the other end, Cincinnati got Trey Hendrickson back out of concussion protocol. So, one good hit and he's going to be done. But, I mean, if he gets sustained and he passed protocol, he's going to shore up that defensive line that might not be so easy to start that run game immediately. So it's interesting. I think the 3.5 is a favorable number for the Titans. Like Raider Jim says, getting it at 3 is probably most ideal. So I like Tennessee regardless, because I think their defense and their team is just built for playoff runs. And I think well over that 47 overall point total.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I agree with both of you. I think Tennessee -3 is ideal. I think -3.5, you'll feel okay about that as well. The big, I guess, X factor here, is Tennessee's defense versus Cincinnati's offense. Tennessee does something that Cincinnati struggles with, and that's, protecting the quarterback. Joe Burrow was hit. You don't normally see the most sacked quarterback now playing the 23rd or 22nd of January. Normally that's reserved for somebody who's picking in the top 5, but Cincinnati's been able to weather that. And even in a way against the Raiders, they were able to weather that. I don't think they do that against Tennessee. Tennessee's the only team in the league with 3 players with 8 sacks or more. Once again, you can't double team 3 different players. So they're going to have to find a way to quick hitters, things like that. I like Tennessee here. I am going to take the over as well. Joe Burrow, he might get hit a lot, but you know what? He's going to get his as well. And he's really, really talented. And he has a lot of weapons. It's just that offensive line that I think is inevitably going to hold them back. This team's 2 or 3 years away from, being at that plateau. But I will say this is also a team that proved me very wrong when they went into Kansas City, not in a playoff game, but still. No, I'm sorry. They didn't go to Kansas City. I think that went in Cincinnati. But when they beat Kansas City, that was very impressive. At least got my attention, essentially kept Kansas City out of the 1 seed there for that one. So keep an eye on Cincinnati, but once again, minus 3.5 for Tennessee until someone really is able to stop the train that is Tennessee. I'm going to keep riding it. But moving on to the Saturday night matchup, a NFC rival, or old back in the late 90s, the Steve Young, Brett Favre matchups. It is the San Francisco 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 6-point favorites. The over-under here is 47. In terms of the weather, it's going to be cold with temperatures in the teens. But as of right now, it's expected to be clear. No rain, no snow, anything like that. However, there is snow expected Monday, which is 2 days after this game. So who knows? If something gets there very early, we may see something late in that game. But I don't believe that the weather will be too much of a factor. But we'll start with you, Coach Lupian. Green Bay 6-point favorites against the Niners.
Man, this is why'd you have to start with me? This is a tough one because I think the Niners obviously have a lot of momentum and confidence going into this game. And I've always looked at them as a team that it doesn't matter whose name's across your chest, especially in their division when they play teams like Seattle, which they're always, are pretty favorable against. And let's talk about how extremely favorable they are against the LA Rams. And the only really weak spot is when they come down and play Arizona, but they play like Green Bay, just like everyone else. They play them tough, and they have a game plan and a defense to hang with. So, it kind of is up in the air. It depends on if the quarterback can just manage the game and not really have to force much, and see what the defense could do to keep them into the game and put Green Bay in a situation where they're feeling a lot of home field pressure to perform. So, you can't replace a guy like Aaron Rodgers. He does what he does, and he likes those stages. But there are those times where they play a team like San Francisco that's kind of gritty and kind of gunslinging and that goes hard all the time, and they put themselves in a situation to be successful. I think it's going to be a lot closer than the spread says, and home field advantage for the Green Bay, I think, is what's going to separate the two teams winning and losing. What's the over-under?
47.
That's a tough call for me because you just don't know what's up with San Francisco as far as their scoring. But you know what? They're using a guy like their wide receiver Samuel.
Debo. Yeah.
Debo. They're using him out wide. They're using him in the slot. They're using him behind the quarterback. They're just getting their playmakers the ball. on offense, and then the playmakers on defense are making plays. So I really like what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, and I think confidence and can only take them so far in this game. But I think I'll go with Green Bay because I think they've stood out all season long consistently, except for week one when, you know, my team beat them when we were fully healthy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting one. Aaron Rodgers 0-4 against his hometown team when he was growing up in the playoffs, never beaten the Niners in the playoffs.
Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about, you know?
Yep.
Niners don't care
and I believe it's 4 different quarterbacks as well. So it's not like it's been now I believe that Garoppolo may have done it twice if he does it here, but it's not like it was a dynasty like, oh, we lost to Brady 8 years in a row. No, it's been a bunch of Nick Mullins maybe and a Colin Kaepernick and so on and so forth. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Green Bay 6-point favorites against the Niners.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. I think really we've got 2 real good defenses out there. I mean, obviously, what do you say about the 49er defense? I think they're 3rd overall. The Packers are 9th overall, which is going to be just enough defense, I think, to keep San Francisco in check. Now, does anybody know what the status of Bosa is?
Oh,
because I think what the last I heard this morning is he's not playing.
I don't believe so.
And if he's not playing, that seals the deal, I think, for Green Bay. Not that Bosa, you know, he's not the only guy that plays defense for the 49ers, and I understand that. But I think it gives a little more breathing room and flexibility to what the offensive line scheme can be for the Packers. And I think, you know, it's going to make it a little, it's not going to be Brett Favre looking, or not, Aaron Rodgers looking over his shoulder. So I think overall, and Samuel, but what do you say about Deebo Samuel on the other side of the ball? He's a wide receiver that had 72 yards rushing last week, 38 yards receiving. They're using him perfectly, I think, and he is dangerous. I just had this, you know, fantasy team of him and Tyreek Hill on the same team. Oh my God. Can you imagine if you had that lineup somewhere down the road? So it's going to be good. It's going to be cold, but I think overall, I think 5.5, it's really lining up for the Packers to cover the spread at 5.5. If you can get that 5.5, and then over though, I think it's going to be a scoring game. I can see this going 28-20. I can see it going a little more than that too.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this line, and this may be what I talked about earlier. That, you know, the recency bias of not seeing Green Bay, but seeing San Francisco. And I was impressed by San Francisco. You know, the Cowboys, I know the Cowboy fans have all kinds of frustrations with the referee here and there, blah, blah, blah. But calling a quarterback draw with 12 seconds left in the fourth quarter, get mad at your head coach, not the referee. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's unbelievably ridiculous. But in terms of San Francisco, they just it seems like, for Green Bay, we come to this point every year for them where you go, okay, it's all laid out correctly. They're going to have home field and they're going to be able to do this. And it just seems like something doesn't click. And it's incredible to me that, you know, if this goes the way it's normally gone, that, you know, the career of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, as prolific as it's been, it seems like they've been 12-4, 13-3 for the last 15 years. Only 1 championship. That will go down as, I mean, for me, a big time waste of talent. And this is the last ride for most people. And I think a big part of this game is pressure. And I don't think it's quarterback pressure, although obviously it's part of it. And the Joey Bosa has a lot to do with that as well. But the pressure of what this game is going to do, because this game comes close in the fourth quarter. Lambeau Field's going to get tense. Aaron Rodgers is going to get tense. And look, I don't know Aaron Rodgers too well, but there may be a point in that game where Aaron Rodgers goes, hey, I still got teams lining up for me no matter what I do today. Jimmy Garoppolo, not so much, because if you hear about what's going on in San Francisco, they're ready to be like, thank you, Jimmy. It's Trey Lance's team now. Jimmy G might be playing for a job next year. Aaron Rodgers will not. So if it comes down to that, you know, San Francisco, I want to bet San Francisco so badly, but I also fall into the trap every year. of betting against the 1 seed or the team that got the bye. So I'm going to stay away from it. But for the sake of this, I would say San Francisco plus 5.5. I just think they're good enough to keep this inside one possession or at least a field goal. Maybe not necessarily win it, but keep them at arm's length, even without Bosa, but it's going to be difficult. In terms of the over-under, I agree. I like the over here. I think both teams, this is it for them. And there are very few run offenses that can do what San Francisco does with, obviously, what we talked about with Debo. It's different to line up a wide receiver and make him and have him run out of the running back position. But then to see Debo Samuel run the way he does, you would think that is a running back. That's not a wide receiver who is lined up as a running back. So going to be interesting. I think that's going to be one of the better games, despite it being by far the biggest spread of the weekend. But we move on to the Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon game. It's going to be the Los Angeles Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 3-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. Looking at the weather and the notes here, the temperatures will be in the 50s. Tampa, obviously not cold weather, but it will be clear. Once again, though, rain is expected on Tuesday, and that's 2 days after this. So if some weather gets there early, we could see some rain in that one. Before I pass it over to the gentlemen and get their thoughts, I will just kind of go over what happened this past weekend with the Eagles. I put it about 10-15% that the Eagles could get the win. I did think they could cover the 9.5, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, it was one of their worst performances of the year. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, when you make the mistakes that they did, you don't have a chance to be successful in this league against a good team like the Buccaneers. My big concern, though, is more questions were brought up than answered, most notably Jalen Hurts. There have been a lot of people who are ready to give him the keys to the franchise, and I have yet to see that. I still have yet to see that. And it's crazy how one game I can go from saying there is zero chance the Eagles take a quarterback in the first round. 60 minutes later, I don't know how the Eagles don't take a quarterback in the first round. It's unbelievable. But with 3 first-round picks, I mean, throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, because we have to find something else, somebody who can push the ball downfield. I hate to say it, but Eagles go down 17-0 this past weekend. The game was over. Even if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw that interception late in the first half, the Eagles are losing that game because they can't push the ball downfield consistently. Jalen Hurts, you can show me all the highlights of deep balls, but they're spread out over 2 or 3 games. I need something consistently throughout the game. I haven't really seen that yet. But back to the matter at hand, this weekend, the Rams at Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers 3-point favorites, over under 48.5. Raider Jim, let's get started off with you.
Yeah, I think the Rams, don't get me wrong, and nobody get critical about this remark. Their defense is good. Is it very good? I don't know. It might be marginally good, better than most. But they're going to go in there the 24th rated team against the pass, against Tom Brady, and that's not going to win this game. You got to be better than that. They're good against the run, and they're 17th overall. Now, at the beginning of the season, all of the professional guys, not me and you and coach, all the professional guys were talking about how the Rams were going to be the defense that's going to just shut everybody down. And then they brought in Von Miller, and he is Von Miller, and he's somebody that gets your attention when he's on the field. But what I've seen, he hasn't been a game changer since he's been out there. I've seen a few good plays from him, and I would love to have seen him in silver and black this last weekend. Don't get me wrong, but I think when you're going to go against Tom Brady and the boys, this is just lining up to be the replay of last year with Green Bay and Tampa Bay. And I think going into the game this weekend for the Packers, the one thing that Aaron Rodgers is going to do is pull the coach aside and say, we're not going for a field goal. Got it? We are not going for a field goal. That's where you blew it last year. So back to the Rams and the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers have this one, 3 points, no problem, over under 48. Should be a good offensive game. And unless it's a downpour, I still see points on the board. So I even like the over in this one. And Rams, hey, they're playing good ball, and offensively, they're a very, very good team because they're, I think, 9th overall on offensive production. So going to be a good game, but I think Tampa Bay is going to be at home and comfortable and ready to play.
Yeah, in one of the more insane stats, this is like insane stat number 97 for Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is older than every single coach in the NFC remaining that he will be facing. Obviously not Bruce Arians, but Cliff Kingsbury, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. He is older than every single one. That's, I don't know if you'll ever see that again, but Coach Lupian, what are your thoughts on the NFC divisional matchup with the Rams heading to Tampa?
So let's look at it like this, okay? At least Jalen Hurts didn't have as bad of a game as Kyler Murray against the number 24th ranked team defensive-wise against the pass, according to Raider Jim. I just don't. It's hard to gauge this Rams team because they've had way more downs in my mind than ups, except until last week. And it's really going to be dependent on what Tampa Bay's defensive line does against that Rams O-line and putting pressure on Matthew Stafford. If they're able to get back there and disrupt him and the timing, Tampa Bay all day. Even with less weapons than they've had all season long. They're not at full strength with their wide receiver group. Leonard Fournette was out last week, but I mean, their running game proved well worthy to win the game as well. So I really like Tampa Bay, but I don't want to. I'm not going to pick this game. I really like Tampa Bay, but what the Rams did was pretty scary last week, and I don't know. What's the over-under on this?
The over-under is 48.5.
48.5, yeah.
48.5? Yeah, I'll go with the over on that. But as far as the spread goes, I really can't. I really don't want to touch this. We can always get cliches and say, hey, Brady's going to be Brady and pull it out at the end. But the end could be putting them in position for that field goal to knock it in and not cover. So, it's an interesting game. I hope it's an entertaining game. I'll never root for an LA team, but I'll let personal feelings aside and stay away from it.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to kind of X factors. First and foremost, it's the Buccaneers offensive line, really, really good, very experienced, but they took some lumps this past weekend. There were times at one point, I think they had 2 or 3 guys on the sideline. Yeah. It wasn't enough to get it done. But I think that if that happens again, keep an eye on that because the Rams defensive line is going to take much more advantage than the Eagles defensive line did. And another one is Cam Akers. Cam Akers has something that I don't think anybody in the league has right now. It's rest and relaxation. He's been out for the fact that he's come back this year, first and foremost, is a minor medical miracle. I mean, he should have been out for 6 months and he's come back from an Achilles injury in, I believe, 3.5, 4 months. It's incredible. So he's incredibly healthy, or I don't know about healthy, but he's rested. He's recovered. He's ready for this. Everyone else, that's been running the football this season as a number one is deep into their, situation. So keep an eye on that. But if you can get Tampa Bay -2.5, I like it. I think they win by a field goal plus. This is, for better or worse, Brady's Rodgers matchup. It's unless someone, really, really drops the ball this weekend. That's what we've been destined for. And I know Aaron Rodgers will be waiting for that. And I promise you, if for whatever reason Matt LaFleur does not go for it on 4th down in the conference championship game, there will be a murder at Lambeau, but that we'll get to that next week if so. But I like Green Bay or Tampa Bay to cover here. If you can get 2.5, even better. In terms of the over under, I'm actually going to take the under here, only for the fact that I had all 4 of these as overs, and I said I can't. One of these has to be an under. This was the one I picked as an under. I just think maybe it's a little more cagey than maybe what we expect. Maybe we get some early rain or something like that could change things. But I think maybe an under possibly there. But the final game to break down is the other side of the AFC divisional matchups. It is the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 1.5 point favorites. The over-under currently is 54. The weather, not too bad in Kansas City. It'll be clear with temps in the mid-30s. This is the AFC West. So Raider Jim, this is your jurisdiction. Who do you got this weekend? Buffalo at Kansas City.
Yeah, when you look at it on paper, it should go over the 54, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be a different kind of a game. I think Kansas City to win this one, and I think they are going to win this one, but they need to come out, they need to control the ball. They can't just try to take big chunks of the field and run up a bunch of points. What they actually beat Buffalo's offense on the sidelines. That's going to be the best thing they can do for themselves in the game plan and for their own, for their defense. Don't make the defense is not that Kansas City strong suit, and especially against offensive powerhouse like Buffalo has been throughout the season, on and off. But more often than not, then you better keep that guy off the field. And if you can do that, it's going to be success. If you let Buffalo out there, though, watch out, because if they put it together like they did last week, it's going to be good.
Yeah. Kansas City enjoyed the 7 seed, the AKA first round, not really bye of Pittsburgh, took care of business, but it was a little shaky there. I think 5 minutes, 6 minutes left in the first half. It was 7-0 Pittsburgh. You were going, wait, what's going on? And then you blink an eye and it's 35-14. It was pretty ridiculous. But anyways, Coach, what are your thoughts? Kansas City hosting Buffalo, 1.5 point favorites.
This is a game that we've talked about extensively over the last 3 seasons, in regards to Buffalo's maturity or lack thereof and immaturity. And last season, while they looked very mature all season long, the pressure of the big stage in the playoffs kind of got the best of that. And, I'm tired of saying, when are these guys going to grow up and show some growth in their game and then their mental fortitude and their maturity? Like, at some point, it's just got to be done. And last week was kind of a misleading game. I mean, they're playing a Patriots team that they don't have to worry about what Mac Jones is going to do offensively, and then they played an aged defense. Not the case this time against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. Other than the defense being not as probably stout as New England, they got they got a game plan for a guy like Patrick Mahomes. So it'll be interesting to see. I do like the over on this, just like last year. It was the over and it went down. High scoring game. Dare I say it? Buffalo is going to pull it out. I think the weather is not a factor. They've been in this situation against this particular team a number of times the last couple of years. And then they kind of brought in some veteran presence that know what it takes to win in the playoffs, like a wide receiver like Emmanuel Sanders, for example. So this could be that turning point. Let's just say I kind of want it to be more that turning point than it's going to be that turning point, just because of I'm a Allen fan, and I like what they've done with him and that team over the last number of years, and I just kind of want to see it kind of blossom.
Yeah, this would be the next step, or at least beating Kansas City would be kind of the next step for Buffalo as a franchise. A couple years back, it was okay, we made the playoffs. Yep. 2 years ago, it was okay, we won a playoff game. And last year it was, we made it to the AFC title game, and, a play here or there. maybe we're going to the Super Bowl. Well, this isn't the AFC title game, but it's exercising the demon that is Kansas City. One big factor, one of the maybe big pictures of last year, one of the most photographed, was Stephon Diggs for 30 minutes after the game last year, watching the Kansas City Chiefs celebrate an AFC championship. I mean, just standing there in full gear, watching that. What type of fire does that give Diggs? I don't think it's any extra because everyone wants to win the Super Bowl anyway. So it's not Diggs standing there watching it gives him any extra incentive. But for me, that shows that he's counting the minutes to this game. And he's been counting the minutes to this game since last January. Is that enough? Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think Kansas City, look, until someone knocks them off in the AFC, you can't, at least for me, you can't get away from it. I love Josh Allen. I think he is going to end up being one of those quarterbacks, those generational talents, and he will win a Super Bowl. I just don't think it's this year. Kansas City's got still too much depth, too much talent. And that defense is figuring it out as well. This was a big part of the team early on that I thought, hey, maybe this team isn't Super Bowl caliber again. The defense has figured it out. They're playing well. It's going to be a great game, but like I said, if you're only asking me to lay 1.5 on Kansas City, I'm going to do that 9 times out of 10. So I'll take Kansas City. In terms of the over under, I think this is a little high. 54. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand why it's at 54, but it's still a divisional matchup. I still think early on, we're going to see some, maybe, some caution early on from both play callers that we normally don't see in a regular season game, kind of knowing, all right, we can make some mistakes early. And even if we lose this game, it's okay. You can't do that in this time of year. You have to make sure you can't win a game in the first quarter, but you can certainly lose one. And I think both of these teams are very wary of that. I think we're going into half, 10-7, maybe opens up a little bit in the second half, but not enough to get to 54. But to be honest, we had 6 total games last week. And I think all of us can agree that 2 of them were amazing, or at the very least, they were dramatic. 2 of them were dramatic. The other 4, didn't need to happen. You didn't need to watch the fourth quarter in a lot of them. I think we're going to see 4 really good games this weekend. And we just broke them all down for you, at least from a betting angle. But let's get our final thoughts from everyone. We'll start with you, Coach. Final thoughts here as we get ready for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
Last week's 6-1 performances by the home team was pretty astonishing, but that's the way the matchup's been, I think, and especially more so now that you have a 2-7 matchup, so I could see it and understand it. This week, it not so much, and I said it a minute ago. I'll take Buffalo, and then you said it. You're still going to give it to the Chiefs until someone knocks them off. I think this is the best chance for any team to knock them off with an aging defense of their own and whatnot. So maybe it's a 3-1, 2-2 homestand this weekend for the teams. It'll be interesting, and I think the quality of play is going to be a lot funner to watch than some of those other ones from last week. So looking forward to it, and I'm just kind of blessed to be back on with you guys, and hopefully what I said could help anyone out with their picks, and just going to enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, and we're blessed to have you here with us as well, Coach. It was great to have you back as always. And Raider Jim, final thoughts for the people as we get them ready for divisional weekend.
Well, how about that? As you and I said last week, it seems like it was just 2 weeks ago we were talking about preseason and what was the start of the season going to be? Would we make it through COVID? And here we are 1 week away from the championship games and then the Super Bowl. And by the time that's wrapped up, the Olympics are going to be underway, and get ready for March Madness.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to enjoy March Madness very much. Unfortunately, my sports calendar may be a little busted up because normally the national championship game falls very, very close to opening day in baseball. And I think even the hardened or the most optimistic baseball fans aren't expecting any baseball to be played in April with their lockout still going on. But, for the NFL, I don't know if Raider Jim brought it up last week on air, or it was definitely at some point. It might have been off air. And it's kind of got me thinking, and I've been thinking for the last week or so, and it's awfully quiet on the COVID front. Obviously, at least in the NFL side, I'm not talking about the world. That's for a different podcast on a different network. And believe me, not us. But in the NFL world, where it seemed like we were doing this show and we would give you 2 picks. If so-and-so plays, this is our pick. If he doesn't, this is our pick. Yet to hear any rumblings out of those teams for the playoffs. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, I guess. I'll put my tinfoil hat on. I find it hard to believe that they had this much trouble keeping teams together and then a playoffs roll around and everybody is just perfectly fine. Read into that what you will. But it's something that, once again, Raider Jim kind of planted this seed in my head last week, and it's grown almost to a beanstalk proportion with my head over here. But keep an eye on that. And I will also say this, I'd rather have this than what we had early season. However we get there, for better or worse, I want to see the best players play on the biggest stages, and that's so far what we've seen. But thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the NFL Weekly presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. It's time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.
Peace out.